Two cartridges are sitting in front of you. One is marked .223, the other is marked 556. You have probably been told that one of them is safe while the other could damage your rifle, blow out a primer, lock a case inside the chamber, or even destroy the gun in your hands. But here is the problem. If I drop both cartridges into the same metal tray and mix them together, most shooters could not separate them again just by looking, so why is one sold as ordinary civilian ammunition while the other is treated like a dangerous, high-pressure military round? And what really happens if you load 5.56 into a rifle marked .223? You may have spent more money on ammunition, avoided perfectly usable cartridges, or even purchased a different rifle because of a pressure number repeated for decades. But before you decide the entire warning is a lie, there is one situation where 5.56 can create a real problem. And the cause is not inside the ammunition box. The warning usually sounds simple. 223 is the civilian cartridge. The 5.56 is the military version. One is supposedly mild and predictable, while the other is hotter, harsher, and dangerous in the wrong rifle. Then come the numbers. A standard .223 load is often listed at roughly 55,000 psi. The 5.56 is commonly quoted at around 62,000 psi. That is a difference of 7,000 pounds of pressure acting on every square inch in the chamber. 7,000 psi is not a tiny variation. If both numbers came from the same test, using the same equipment and the same measurement point, the warning would make perfect sense. A tighter .223 chamber would appear to be dealing with pressure it was never designed to contain. That is why the story has survived for so long. It sounds technical, precise, and easy to repeat. But there is one question most articles never ask. Were those two pressure numbers actually measured in the same way? The problem is that those two famous pressure numbers may not be speaking the same language. Different organizations can use different testing standards, different equipment, different conversion methods, and even different sensor locations. One system may measure pressure through the side of the cartridge case, while another may record it closer to the case mouth. Move the sensor, change the equipment, or change the reporting standard, and the number can shift by thousands of psi even when the ammunition itself has not changed. Think of it this way. You cannot measure the temperature in the shade, take a second reading from sun-heated pavement, and then claim the weather suddenly became 10 degrees hotter. The two readings came from different conditions. This does not prove that every 5.56 load produces exactly the same pressure as every 223 load. It proves that 55,000 and 62,000 psi cannot be compared as simply as people often assume. And that creates a much more important question. If 62,000 psi does not prove the entire story, where does the real difference actually begin? So, is 5.56 actually more powerful than .223? Sometimes, but the name printed on the box does not tell you the whole story. Velocity depends on the specific load, the bullet weight, the type and amount of powder, and the length of the barrel firing it. A military 5.56 load may travel faster than a mild commercial .223 load using the same bullet weight, but another .223 load may perform very differently. Even changing from a short barrel to a longer one can affect velocity more than the cartridge label itself. That is why comparing one box of .223 with one box of 5.6 does not prove a universal rule. A cartridge may be faster because of its individual load formula, but safety is not decided by velocity alone. To understand the real issue, we have to stop looking at the ammunition box and look inside the rifle. The two names make the cartridges sound more different than they really are. The designation .223 uses inches, while 5.56 uses millimeters. They are two measurement systems describing cartridges from the same closely related family. The design began with the .222 cartridge and was modified to meet new velocity and military requirements. The civilian .223 appeared first, followed by military loads such as M193 and later 5.56 standard SO 5. 56 was not created as a completely unrelated cartridge, operating in an entirely different pressure class. Both developed from the same basic design if the case dimensions, bullet diameter, and history are so closely connected. Why are rifles still marked with different chamber names? The real difference begins inside the barrel, in the chamber and the short section ahead of it called the throat or lead. When the cartridge fires, the bullet leaves the case and travels across a small area of smooth bore before reaching the spiral grooves of the rifling. That distance is known as bullet jump. If the throat is longer, the bullet has more room to begin moving before the rifling grips it. If the throat is very short, the bullet can meet resistance almost immediately, which may cause pressure to rise more sharply. This is the part that can change what happens inside the rifle, not the color of the ammunition box, not the word military in an advertisement. The critical difference is the shape of the chamber machined into the barrel. So why is the throat in a 5.56 chamber usually longer? The answer is not simply that military ammunition is more powerful. Some military projectiles are longer or shaped differently, especially specialized bullets such as tracers. A longer bullet may sit closer to the rifling even when its overall cartridge length appears nearly identical. And weight alone does not tell the full story. Two bullets with the same weight can have different profiles, and the position of the ogive determines how quickly each one reaches the rifling. A longer throat gives these projectiles additional room to begin moving, creating more pressure headroom and improving reliability across a wider range of ammunition. So the 5.56 chamber was not designed only for a supposedly hotter cartridge. It was also designed to handle different bullet shapes and demanding operating conditions. Now we reach the question that matters most. Can the two cartridges be fired across the different chambers? Start with .223 ammunition in a rifle chambered for 5.56. This combination is generally considered compatible. The longer throat may give the bullet slightly more distance to travel before reaching the rifling, which can affect accuracy in some rifles, but the difference often depends on the specific firearm and load. The opposite direction requires more caution. Many modern rifles may fire 5.6 in a .223 chamber without an obvious problem, but in a genuinely tight .223 chamber, especially one designed for precision shooting, a stronger load or differently shaped bullet may increase pressure. Warning signs can include a flattened or pierced primer, ejector marks, casehead damage, difficult extraction, unusual recoil, or an abnormal sound. That is why both sides of this argument are only half right. One side predicts an instant explosion, the other pretends every chamber and every load are identical. So what does all of this mean for the rifle you actually own? If you have a modern R marked 5.56 and you are using properly manufactured commercial ammunition, there is usually no reason to panic over arguments online. If you own an older bolt-action rifle marked only .223, be more careful. Its chamber may be tighter, especially if it was built for precision shooting. Do not assume every 5.56 load is suitable. Check the manufacturer's manual or have a qualified gunsmith identify the chamber, and if the barrel marking is missing, worn away, or unclear, do not guess from the receiver, magazine, or ammunition box. Verify the chamber before loading anything uncertain. That single decision is more useful than memorizing thousands of conflicting comments. There is a third chamber that was designed to reduce this entire problem. It is called .223 Wylde, and despite the name, it is not a cartridge. You will never find a box of 223 Wylde ammunition because Wylde refers only to the chamber machined into the barrel. The idea is to combine useful features from both designs. It provides enough throat and pressure headroom to handle properly manufactured .223 and 5.56 loads, while keeping tighter dimensions intended to support better accuracy than a looser military-style chamber. For shooters who want to use both ammunition types, especially when precision also matters. 223 Wylde can be a practical solution, but it is not a magic label. Ammunition quality, rifle condition, manufacturer guidance, and correct chamber identification still matter. And while the internet continues arguing about a cartridge swap that usually does not produce an immediate disaster, another round can fit into the wrong rifle and cause exactly the kind of failure everyone fears. The truly dangerous cartridge swap is not .223 versus 5.56, it is 300 blackout entering a rifle chambered for .223 or 5.56. The .300 blackout uses a shortened case from the same cartridge family, but it carries a much wider 30 caliber bullet. Under certain conditions, a round can enter the wrong chamber far enough for the bolt to close, giving the shooter little warning, pull the trigger, and the rifle attempts to force a large bullet through a much smaller bore. Pressure rises violently, potentially destroying the bolt, receiver, and magazine. This danger is real, documented, and preventable. Keep .300 blackout magazines physically separated and clearly identified, because the ammunition mix-up that receives less attention is the one that can actually destroy your rifle. Military brass can look different from commercial .223, but those differences do not automatically change which chamber it belongs in. The most common feature is a crimp around the primer. It helps keep the primer secure during hard military use. Some cases also use sealant around the primer or case mouth to protect against moisture. The dark or discolored area near the neck is usually evidence of annealing, a heat treatment used to keep the brass flexible for shooters using factory ammunition. These features usually do not affect the chamber decision. For reloaders, however, the primer crimp must often be removed before a new primer can be seated. Always follow reliable load data, work carefully, and never judge safe pressure only by the head stamp on the case. There is one more specification people constantly confuse with chambering: the barrel's twist rate. A marking such as 1 in 12, 1 in 9, 1 in 8, or 1 in 7 describes how quickly the rifling rotates the bullet. It does not tell you whether the chamber is designed for .223 or 5.56. These specifications answer two completely different questions. First, will this cartridge fit and operate safely? That question depends primarily on the chamber, the ammunition load, and the manufacturer's specification. Second, will this bullet stabilize accurately? That depends more on twist rate, bullet length, weight, and design. A slower 1 in 12 twist generally favors shorter, lighter bullets. Faster twists, such as 1 in 8 or 1 in 7, are better suited to longer and heavier projectiles. Twist rate may determine whether a bullet flies straight or becomes unstable, but it does not automatically reveal whether the barrel contains a 223 chamber or a 5.56 chamber. For that answer, you must read a different marking. The answer is usually stamped directly on the barrel. Look for markings such as .223 Remington, 5.56 NATO, or .223 Wylde. Do not rely only on the receiver, because an upper assembly or barrel may have been replaced while the original receiver markings remained unchanged. Start by removing the magazine and confirming that the firearm is unloaded and safe. Then inspect the barrel carefully and identify the actual caliber or chamber marking. Do not confuse that marking with the twist rate, such as 1 in 7, or with inspection marks such as MP. Those specifications describe different features and do not identify the chamber. Next, compare the marking with the firearm manual or the manufacturer's official information. If the barrel has no readable marking, its history is unknown, or the information conflicts, do not guess. Have a qualified gunsmith verify the chamber. This video is educational, and the manufacturer's official guidance should always take priority. The biggest lie is not that .223 and 5.56 are completely identical. They are not identical in every load, every chamber, or every rifle. The lie is making shooters believe the entire difference can be explained by 2 pressure numbers printed beside 2 cartridge names. A cartridge is only one part of the system. The chamber matters, the specific load matters, the condition of the rifle matters, and the manufacturer's guidance matters more than a pressure figure repeated without context. So do not make your decision based on a story told at a gun counter. Do not trust a confident comment simply because it has been repeated for years. Read the barrel marking. Check the official manual. Understand the chamber in the rifle you actually own, and if you think 223 versus 5056 is confusing, wait until we compare .308 Winchester with 7.62 NATO, because there, the popular warning is almost completely reversed. Subscribe for firearm debates explained through real mechanics, not recycled fear.